From a kid who thinks if you like Christmas, you should be canceled, to a kid who refuses to do anything but bark in class, these are the strangest Gen Z kids you have ever seen. Let's get into it.
And we're crying, 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 like a wounded animal.
So we're going to call the kid who submitted the first story Carl. So anyways, Carl was in class one day when this whole thing went down. So anyways, Carl was in class, and there's this girl who came in, and this girl was kind of known for always wanting attention, always like starting problems, always being that one person who needed to be the center of attention no matter what, and would even do some pretty embarrassing things to get there. And I don't mean embarrassing by like, class clown where they might degrade themselves, right, or do something that I don't know, just is embarrassing, but they do it for attention. No, this girl would do stuff that was just so ridiculous, but she would say it in such like a genuine way. And this was a pretty great example of that. This one got kind of crazy though, because one day, Carl was just in class, just kind of sitting there, kind of just enjoying himself or whatever. And that's when this girl, because they're all this is like before the teacher got there, like they got in a little bit early and like the teacher was going out to make copies of something or something. So they're all sitting in class, and it's around like November, December. So Christmas time is coming up, and this girl all of a sudden is like, if you support Christmas, then you should be canceled because that's offensive as not everyone supports Christmas. And dude, I'm not talking about like the thing where people were like trying to make it more inclusive by saying happy holidays instead of Merry Christmas because not everyone celebrates Christmas. I don't really care about that, like that's fine, but that's not what this girl is saying. Listen really closely. She's saying, if you support Christmas, then you should be canceled. Dude, she's saying that if you support, not even like if you celebrate, like if you celebrate it, or even you just are fine that people are celebrating it, you should be canceled. Dude, I swear this is one of those like Twitter girls who goes on Twitter for 1 second and like misreads a misinformation thread really quickly and then just gets it completely wrong because, dude, she definitely read something about how like you shouldn't say Merry Christmas because what if they don't celebrate? And that I can kind of understand more. I also just seriously don't think that it's that big of a deal. But she probably read it as, if you support Christmas, then you should be canceled. So she starts having this whole thing about, if you support Christmas, then you should be canceled. And that, it's offensive to those people who don't celebrate. And this other guy, we're just going to call Ben, kind of friends with Carl and is definitely known as more of the, to play the devil's advocate kid. So he's definitely the one who always wants to like, kind of like get into arguments like that. Kind of like stood up and was like, I think that's kind of stupid. Like, why should I be canceled if I just support Christmas? Like, the guy was like, I don't even celebrate Christmas like that, but like, why would I be canceled if I support people celebrating it? And this girl turns around and says, you don't understand how insensitive that is to cultures that don't celebrate. And the kid Ben is literally like, dude, I just told you, I don't celebrate myself. Like, I'm fine with it. What are you talking about? Like, I just don't understand what you mean by like, if you support Christmas, like, you should be canceled. And this girl's like, dude, you don't want to mess with me. No, because I run a Twitter account. This Twitter account has 10,000 followers. She pulls out her phone and she like picks up this, like, she shows everyone, this Twitter account. And sure enough, it was like one of those like K-pop Twitter accounts. And look, dude, I'm sure there's plenty of people who watch me that also like K-pop. That's totally fine. But if you have a Twitter account and you have a K-pop Twitter account and you reply to people, like you find a post about someone who died and you respond, maybe they wouldn't have died if you stand Luna, something like, dude, like just rethink your life at that point, delete that account. She was one of those girls who had one account like that, except this account was like apparently like notorious for like canceling people or whatever, or making big threads about people and being like, well, if it's on Twitter, then, the Twitter is real life, guys. Like one of those people, right? So she shows everyone that account. It has like 7,000 followers or something. So it's not like a crazy big account. It's not anything too big, but it's also not nothing. Like she was kind of notorious or whatever. And she was like, if you don't say that you're sorry, and she's saying this to Ben, right? If you don't say that you're sorry and you understand exactly what I mean, then I'm going to tweet out your address and tell everyone to go raid your house or send like pizzas or something like that, right? So everyone in the class was like, whoa, like this kind of escalated pretty big. Like, maybe if she had 2 followers on Twitter and she tweeted out, oh, well, guys, go send pizzas to this guy's address or whatever. Yeah, at that point, maybe it wouldn't be cool. Like, you really shouldn't be doing that, even if you just have 2 followers. But at the same time, like, this girl had 7,000 followers, bro. Like, that wasn't anything too crazy. But look, there's definitely, and especially the people that would follow an account like her account, which is just about canceling people. If only they stand Luna, maybe they wouldn't be dead. Man, stuff like that, right? Dude, the people who are going to follow accounts like that are definitely degen no-lifers. So, yeah, they might actually go ahead and go with it. So at this point, Carl was like a little bit like, okay, this is getting a little crazy. So he like looks over at his friend Ben, who's like sitting kind of near him. He like kind of whispers like, dude, like chill out. It's not worth it. Like, obviously, right? Obviously, Ben's in the right here. Like, who cares if you support Christmas, right? Like, who cares if you support not celebrating Christmas? Like, it literally doesn't matter. But, yeah, obviously he's right. But this girl is just, like, attention-seeking, but probably also a little bit delusional, and would be totally fine telling her Twitter followers to go mess with him. Like, she'd be totally fine to do that. So, like, why would you even put yourself through that if you know that's a possible outcome? But here's the thing, right? Ben was super stubborn. Like, he would get into debates in class with people where he would just intentionally choose the side of the argument that was like the least popular side, but still had like a little bit of room to be argued with. And he would never back down until like there was a very clear logical like fallacy in what he was saying. But he would never choose an argument where it was super black and white, what is right, what is wrong. So he was like notorious in class to be like, not to play devil's advocate, and then go ahead and take like, you know, the side that's a lot harder to defend, but there's still a way you could defend it. But dude would never back down. So like at this point, Carl kind of knew off rip that like his friend was not going to be backing down no matter what. Like his friend was going to be standing like hard to what he was saying, even though like it probably wouldn't be worth the big picture because now he has to, you know, deal with this girl or whatever. And he kind of just says, like, no, like, I didn't say anything wrong here. In fact, like, what you're saying is kind of messed up. And this girl was getting all mad or whatever, and right, so eventually a teacher comes in, and class starts, and they don't think anything about it. But sure enough, right, she said what her Twitter account was, and I wasn't told what it was, but even if I was, I probably wouldn't tell you guys, because I don't want to have I never want to have revealing information in these videos. The whole point, I intentionally change a ton of details and just add stuff just so like people will never be able to figure out who submitted them, right? So anyways, you know, the subscriber though, Carl, does remember what this girl's Twitter account is and checks it later that day. And sure enough, she posted a tweet being like, trigger warning. I don't even, a bunch of nonsense, right? There's this guy in my school, says his first and last name, who was saying that I was wrong for saying that if you support Christmas, you should be canceled. Well, you know, all this kind of stuff, right? I don't even know what basically at the end of the tweet, it said like, go send pizzas to this terrible person's account, like, or his house. Show him that he can't be offensive in school or whatever, right? Something completely stupid and brain dead like that. But sure enough, this Twitter post got like 20 likes or something. I'm told it's gone now, including her account is just gone and any reference of it is gone or whatever. But yeah, at the time it got like a little bit of engagement. And so thankfully, no one sent any like pizzas or, I don't know, police squadrons, right? No one did anything too insane. But sure enough, some other kids in class saw this. And while Carl wasn't the one to submit this to like the school administration, one of the kids who was in the class kind of like saw this and was like, dude, this is messed up, which like Carl could have and maybe would have if no one else did. But Carl kind of had an assumption that, okay, someone is definitely going to say something about this to the principal anyway, so I'm just not trying to get involved in the first place. So I'm gonna let someone else take the stand on this one. Yeah, so sure enough, someone else submitted this to the principal, and obviously the principal's office was not too happy because a student tweeted out on a pretty popular Twitter account by their standards a direct threat against a student. So this girl got suspended for 1 day, nothing too crazy, but still, school issued a punishment, and she was also forced to write a letter, like, apologizing to him, and apparently, like, she dragged her feet hard in this process. saying that like a woman apologizing to a man when men have been bad to women for 10,000 years is ridiculous. And it's like, dude, like, just chill out. You issued a threat against this guy on a semi-popular account for saying that like not supporting, like for you saying that not supporting, like supporting Christmas is bad is kind of a weird thing to say. Like, dude, just apologize. You're obviously in the wrong. And maybe this girl couldn't see it, but I honestly think she could see eventually that she was in the wrong here, but just couldn't simply admit it. Yeah, so when she was no longer suspended, she came back into class, and Ben and this girl, the Gen Z girl, would always sit on like both sides of the classroom, and they would, like, one time, like, they actually were in a group together. But apparently the Gen Z girl almost immediately went up to the teacher and said that, like, Ben and her had some history that she didn't like. So the teacher was like, oh, sorry, guys, I read off my random list wrong, which was a lie. But then he said for so-and-so to switch with the Gen Z girl in the groups, right? Which is very clearly just because the Gen Z girl went up there and asked, but whatever. I mean, kudos to the teacher for just, like, not really caring and being like, sure, whatever. And, yeah, the Gen Z girl continued to be kind of insane, but also was never as bad as that. And if you thought this was bad, the next Gen Z kid is maybe not worse, but is at least much funnier and cringier. So anyways, we're going to call the subscriber Lenny, because Carl and Lenny were the two people who drank with Homer Simpson of The Simpsons. I know. I always try and sneak some references into the name sometimes. Anyways, there's a kid. We're going to call him the Gen Z kid. And he believes he's a dog because he started following what he called the wolf pack on TikTok. He went on TikTok once, saw someone be like, dude, I'm a dog. And he's like, bro, me too. Which, look, it's fine. Honestly, I don't care if you, like, believe that you're an animal. Like, I don't get it, but I also don't care. But here's the thing. You can't act on it and be extremely disruptive as this kid will be. Look, I don't really care that this kid thought he was a dog, but just listen to what he does, right? So one day he comes into class and he sits down next to Lenny, and Lenny and this kid weren't like friends, but they also weren't not cool. Like, he seemed chill enough. Look, they were in 6th grade too, so it really wasn't that big of a deal. Like, kids can be weird in 6th grade, but he sits down next to Lenny. And instead of sitting down normally, I don't know if you guys ever watched Death Note before, but you know how kind of like Elle sits down with like the legs up or whatever? This, like, the Gen Z kid kind of sat down like that to imitate how like a dog would sit. And so Lenny kind of notices this, but also thinks, okay, whatever. Kid sitting a little weird, but who cares, right? Like, I mean, I've sat like that alone in my room. It's actually kind of comfortable for a little bit at least. And that's when the Gen Z kid turns to look at Lenny. And Lenny looks at the Gen Z kid, and the Gen Z kid is like, whoop. Wait, whoop, 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 whoop. Okay, I can't bark that well. I'm just going to say bark from this point on. Dude literally barks at the dude. Like, the Gen Z kid legitimately barks at Lenny, and Lenny kind of looks at him and is like, bro, what? And the Gen Z kid just starts barking, bro. He's like, woof, 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 woof. And everyone in class who was like, kind of like talking or looking at each other, just kind of waiting for the teacher to come in, kind of slowly stops talking and slowly looks over at the kid. And real quick, if you made it this far into the video, comment dogs down below. That'll be the secret word of the day. And also listen on Spotify. And if you're listening on Spotify right now, make sure you've rated 5 stars and followed. But anyways, yeah, so all the kids are looking around. They're like, dude, what? Like, what's this kid on, bro? Like, why is bro barking in class? And the thing is, at first, it was actually kind of, like, not the worst because, wait a sec. It's a little strange right now because they get into class, the teacher's like, okay, guys, like, how's the day, whatever, let's get into it. So the teacher, what this teacher does, and he kind of, like, picks on people randomly to ask questions. The teacher really doesn't care if you get the answer or not. Like, if you don't get it, you are told, like, you should just say, hey, I don't know the answer. And the teacher's totally fine with it. The teacher just does this random calling just to kind of keep people alert and engaged. I never really liked it because sometimes, dude, I just didn't know what was going on. And I just, like, I knew I had, like, especially in a lot of math classes, I really just need to learn that stuff on my own. So whenever people, like, in math classes would just call on me, it would always just be like, I don't know, I'm sorry, like, I know, I'm the stupid one here, my fault. But anyways, so this teacher calls on the kid, and he's like, hey, can you, like, answer this question? And the kid's like, bark, 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 bark. And the teacher's like, dude, what? The teacher probably thought that, oh man, like I must have taken way too many of my meds this morning. What the frick is going on? And the entire class is like trying to hold back laughter because this is 6th grade. Dude, even now, some kids, actually no, now in college, if I was sitting next to some kid, he just starts barking in class, dude, I'd like kind of distance myself. I'd be scared. I'd leave the classroom to go to the bathroom for my own safety. But dude, in middle school, like if some kid started barking in class, I definitely would have found it funny. So the whole class is like laughing or whatever. And the teacher looks at him and says like, hey, like what? But the thing is, right, this kid sticks to character so well because he just goes like, bark, 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 whatever. He just keeps barking, dude. And eventually the teacher just, I don't know. Like, there are definitely some teachers that would get mad at this and be like, oh, like, you bark at me one more time, kid. You bark at me one more time, son, and I will beat your ass. I don't know. I don't think they'd actually say that. But, dude, some of them would probably get a little bit upset. But this teacher was one of the teachers who's just, like, path of least resistance. Like, let me focus on teaching. And if kids want to be, like, stupid, then, like, I don't know, dude. Like, okay. Like, whatever, man. Like, that's fine. It's not really my job. Yeah, so the teacher kind of just stopped talking to this kid because he knew if he was going to ask the kid a question, he would just get barked at. And honestly, I kind of don't blame the teacher. I feel like maybe in the beginning, teachers would be like super strict about making sure everyone was respectful and doing the rules and paying attention. But I think after a while, you're just like, you're going to get like teachers kind of realize you're just going to get some kids that are going to be problems and just focus on the ones that want to be taught, right? The ones who are trying, be there for them. And if the other kids eventually come around, then just be there for them. But until then, just chill out. So this teacher for a while was just like, would not like talk to this kid if he was like, would just like not ask him questions. And for a while, this actually wasn't that bad because the kid would like bark in the middle of class or like in the very beginning of class when kids were walking in, and like it'd be kind of weird for a bit. But the kid wouldn't like bark randomly in the middle of the class. He wouldn't do anything too crazy or disruptive. So it honestly like wasn't that big of a deal until one fateful day, exactly 1 week later. So basically, this kid had been watching more and more dog TikTok. He found himself on the very niche wolf pack dog TikTok For You page or whatever type stuff, right? So apparently the people on the TikTok For You page, wolfkin, whatever, were like, dude, if you're not acting like a dog 24/7, like you're actually not a dog, bro. If you're not barking randomly and running around and biting people, then bro, you're not actually part of the wolf pack, bro. So yeah, apparently this kid decided to basically up his dogness, whatever that even means, and he wanted to commit more. So yeah, sure enough, one day, I'm just gonna I'm not even call him the Gen Z kid anymore. I'm gonna just call him the dog kid, bro. So one day the dog kid comes into class, and he's just like, he just starts barking, but he does that in the beginning. But eventually, it's like 10 minutes in the class, the teacher is, teaching or whatever, and you just hear bark, 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 bark. And the kid literally jumps on top of his desk and is just like sitting on his desk with all fours. And the teacher's just looking at this kid like, bro, what? And he's like, bark, 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 bark. And then he starts like looking around, and then he starts running around, or not, okay. He starts crawling around on all fours, but he's like power crawling. He's like trying to like run crawl. I can't really do that, but he's doing his best to do so, right? So he's just like crawling around. He's got bark, 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 bark. Everyone in class is laughing, obviously. But this is when it becomes an issue for the teacher because at this point, dude, you're definitely like disrupting class or whatever. So sure enough, the kid is just like running around, and the teacher's like, okay, like, I gotta do something. And he's like, hey, like, James, let's call this kid James. Hey, James, like, you can't be doing that. Get back in your seat. And James turns around and is like, bark, 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 bark. Trying to, like, somehow does, like, a sassy bark, whatever that freaking sounds like. But, yeah, so sure enough, this kid just keeps running around barking or whatever. The teacher's like, all right, I gotta do something soon. And the teacher eventually gets enough of a push to do something, especially when James, the dog kid, ends up biting some kid, which is like totally like, that's not cool, dude. This kid was just sitting there doing nothing. This was so unprovoked. This kid was kind of laughing at James running around like a dog. And that's when James looks at him and just takes a chomp into his leg. Thankfully, he doesn't break the skin or anything, but Kid really thinks that bro really thinks that he's like, I don't know, he thinks he's an actual dog. So he goes and he bites, he's like, oh, and that's when the teacher's like, okay, that's enough now. And the teacher's demeanor went from like kind of like chill and calm and like, okay, man, this kid's a little weird, but whatever. Okay, he's being a little disruptive, let's get him to stop, to all right, he crossed the line, he just like attacked another kid. That's it. So he walks over, the teacher like power walks over, basically pulls this kid up by like the scruff of his shirt. He's like, you can't be doing that. You're coming with me. And this kid immediately, bro, he immediately drops the dog character. He's like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. He's like, teacher's like, no, you're coming up with me. So sure enough, this kid starts walking. He's no longer barking, no longer doing any dog activities. And he also asked like the kid that got bit to come up. And yeah, they went up to the principal's office. No punishment was issued, but this kid's parents were called and they were told about his activities of barking in class and biting people or whatever. And this kid tries to explain, because the only reason that Lenny knows the details about how this kid was on like wolf TikTok or whatever is because this kid was like telling the principal, was all like, oh, I thought this was something because I was on wolf TikTok. And like the kid who got bit eventually told Lenny all about it, because it was pretty funny, right? Yeah, and his parents apparently were super mad and they were like, no more TikTok for you. We're deleting that stuff from your phone. That stuff's rotting your brain, whatever, which it is. Delete TikTok from your phone, dude. Like, just get off that stuff. It goes deep, man. But yeah, so sure enough, the kid came to class the next day, and believe it or not, he was not acting like a dog anymore, and he was not biting anyone. And the kid that he bit was like not trying to be close to him because he thought he was a weird guy, which like, bro, if someone comes up to me in class, barks at me and then bites me,